Hey, welcome back to the What If Universe. I am Drew. Bring you someone new, and for today, we're talking to Noah Stories. So, to start things off, would you like to introduce your channel and what you do?
Well, hello everyone. I'm NoahStorys. I am a what if YouTube channel, although I would like to think of myself as a storytelling channel that just hasn't branched out yet. Primarily, so far I've done some Shield Hero what ifs and focused more on My Hero Academia what ifs, like combining different franchises together with the My Hero storyline.
So, for this interview, I'm going to ask questions related to what ifs and a bit about the community or the what ifers or whatever we call ourselves at this point, whatever this community is. To start things off, would you like to talk about what it was like making your first what if scenario?
I have to say this is a long time ago, so kind of hard to remember, but I mean, compared to what I do now, it was a lot shorter. Like the process was a lot shorter, it was a lot more simple. It was basically very bare bones, very skeleton, and still it turned out so long for what it was. Um, yeah, it was very fun. Honestly, the first scenario reached to like 25 parts before going on break, and then I did 3 more before rebooting it. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting experience overall.
So you talked a little bit about it, but what did you learn from making your first what if?
Well, I got into it because I want to be a writer and to practice writing, and I learned how to elaborate on story, how to write dialogue better. Well, overall, the whole thing just elaborated, learning from one to the next. Editing, the YouTube algorithm, although that keeps changing, so that's hard to figure out. And yeah, how to voice act, how to properly voice things, the quality. There's so many little aspects that go into it, but what I primarily focus on trying to learn and getting better at is the story and the universe around it.
Okay. So something else I did want to talk a bit about is about why did you choose to do what if scenario content at first, or did you do like let's plays or something before this channel that you're currently doing?
Okay, so the channel that I'm currently doing, the first video was uploaded in 2019, and before that I had another channel, which yeah, I did Let's Plays and game stuff. Like I did a couple Pokemon games and some Minecraft videos, but never really took off and kind of stagnated. So when I was like, I'm gonna be a writer, I need to practice this, I got into this other account I had and just started uploading and started making stuff. The Yeah, I evolved from there and took what I had learned from previously and elaborated on that and kept learning.
Do you have advice for people who want to start making what ifs?
Well, if you're just doing it on, like, if you're just doing what ifs, then just learn your universe, the universe you're making, because I see a lot of people, like, go on a what if without having the base knowledge and make a lot of mistakes continuity wise, which I know it's not the end of the world. You can make mistakes, you can learn, but personally that's something that bothers me. I'm nitpicky, so that type of stuff
To be
bothers me.
fair, with my first Dragon Ball what if, I made a continuity error by bringing back Nappa back to life on accident because I forgot that's not how the wish was worded when they brought back the people killed by Frieza's men at the time, because that's what the translation was. So it's like,
Mm.
I always wondered why he never came back, but I'm sure there's a proper explanation video. It's just something that I, as a writer at the time, didn't consider. It's like, well, he didn't show up anywhere else, so I should have considered that myself. But at the time, I wasn't double checking that particular aspect, so it ended up breaking the story initially.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the point with learning things. Like at the beginning, I may have learned very little, but for example, for My Hero, I read all the manga a couple times, I watched the anime a couple times, I've looked at the wiki, I've read all the extra facts I could find. I know everything I can know. And try to use that to, like, you don't have to go that far, but try to learn so you can avoid continuity mistakes that can take people out of the story.
Did you have any inspirations to make what ifs?
Well, when I started doing that, I was fairly new into anime. I had been watching for like a year, maybe a year and a half. And YouTube just started recommending me what if content by well, We the Celestials, the Anime Man, Vocal Pineapple made one, which was the first one I watched, and a couple more, and that inspired me to like maybe get into that so I can learn. Like it's a side of fan fiction that I found interesting, and then combined with this short video, which I talked about in some of my like the videos I make that aren't what ifs. I found the short intro of My Hero Academia, which was set to Spider-Man instead. Like they animated it with Spider-Man being in the universe, and that just like sparked the idea, I can do this. This is cool, and I'm making it. And that was my first what if.
All right, it's fair enough. So, what do you think it's? Let's see, what series do you primarily do for your channel?
Well, as I stated earlier, I primarily do My Hero Academia, which is the big one, and then I earlier tried to expand to Shield Hero, but that didn't do that well in views, and honestly, as time went on, I kind of grew disillusioned with the series, so kind of stopped with that.
Yeah,
And
I do know a lot of Shield Hero content kind of went down after season 2, I believe, because it was such a shift from the first one.
I watched one episode of season 2. I read the light novels. I watched one episode and I was disappointed and stopped watching. So, can't really tell you. I just know that I was kind of disappointed with that and kind of plan to expand on stuff like Demon Slayer maybe in the future, but that remains to be seen if I can get my act together.
Yeah, I think with the potential of My Hero ending soon, I do think there's a lot of channels who are primarily doing it. They should consider doing other series eventually here, because the anime will only go for so long, I feel like, because Vigilantes just ended. That might get anime, might not. It really depends on
Hopefully
fan
it does. It's a good story.
I really hope it does, because that also means that if anyone wants to do MHA content, it can at least survive long enough. But from what it's looking at, it's a little iffy at the moment.
Hmm.
And I think part of the reason, like I talked to a few MHA What If YouTubers, they think the reception of season 5's, like how bad it was adapted, kind of contributed, and I kind of agree with that.
With a slow decline, yeah. Honestly, yeah.
What do you do when you have writer's block? Do you got a solution for that?
Well, there's no one solution that fits all, and every time it's kind of different. I've had a point where I just took a very long break and let everything cool off until my brain started working. Sometimes it's a block on one specific thing, so I just move on to a completely different project. It kind of depends, but there's, in general, taking a step back and looking at things objectively and trying to relax a bit can help. Also, try to avoid writer's block in the first place by not overworking yourself. Can be a thing.
Yeah, I understand that. I think for me, what helped out a little bit was trying to branch out and try doing different series I like at the time. And even though with like Infinity Train getting canceled, which sucks, like I at least enjoyed trying to do a few videos with it. Because the concept's really cool with the series. The problem is like it just didn't get any further with the plot, unfortunately.
There's also the thing with Infinity Train where the change of protagonist can be a bit jarring for for your primary viewer base. So that can contribute to a decline in the show.
That is true. I understand some people didn't like that aspect, but for me, I felt like that the first 3 books are like, in my opinion, perfect with how it's set up and how it chains into one another. But book 4, because how the order is, it would have made more sense for that to happen sooner than when we got it initially, because it's a prequel. It's a little weird. At least that's how I think of it.
Mhm.
What do you think makes your what if writing style different to other people?
Well, to be honest, as things have gone on, I kind of stopped watching other what if YouTubers. Like I used to watch in my heyday, I watched almost everyone that was in the community. Then the community started becoming so much larger, and I couldn't keep up, so I kind of stopped. But I don't know. I've seen some styles. Every style is unique in of its own way because a different person writes things in a different way. I personally went a very detailed route, like trying to go into the nitty gritty, which did make things a bit long and sometimes repetitive, especially considering that some dialogues were the same as the main series and people got mad at that. So I try to strike a balance between new and old because I sometimes include my own storylines in the what ifs. I sometimes just modify an existing one. And honestly, just that aspect of doing you yourself. Everyone has a different style, so doing that is what makes it unique.
Yeah, I can get that. That makes sense.
Basically, stick to yourself, and you'll be unique forever. That makes little sense.
Yeah, I can understand that a bit. So, what were some mistakes that you made when doing what if content that you can apply from learning from them?
Well, originally maybe trying to conform to your audience, well, to my audience a bit more. Like, this is a lesson where you can learn from. Like, try to stick. What makes the content special is that it's yours, because otherwise anyone else can make a what if video. So what makes it special is that you did it, that you put your own essence into it in a way. So that is a mistake. Is when doing it is you listen to others a bit too much. It's okay to incorporate ideas and suggestions, but if you feel pressured into doing something, don't do it. Aside from that, again, focusing too much on certain aspects that were basically repetitive from the main show, because people have already seen the main show when they watch your what if content, so you shouldn't include the main show itself too much. Like, you can go over the events, just don't focus too much on that.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, one question I want to ask, because this one would be better for someone like yourself who's more focused with the story. Do you think what ifs need a story, or could they just be explanation videos? Because that's where, like, I would say half this community is, honestly.
I have seen both, and both works. I personally prefer the story because it allows you to connect more, but an explanation video can be quicker, and I've also considered trying to make, well, I did make those for April Fools at one point, but that's a different story. Um, like both work, but I personally prefer the one where you get a story in itself because, let's face it, stories are more entertaining than just explanations.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, do you think the standard of what if content has become a lot higher than it used to be?
Well, yes and no. As time goes on and the community becomes bigger, the quality in itself and the standards behind it may change. But you also have a lot of people that are just getting into it. That
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
the quality itself, like the max quality can be higher, but at the same time, the lowest is still going to remain the lowest. At the same time, I feel like there are some group. I feel like I shouldn't be naming any names. There's some channels that typically I'm churning and
Well, you
they
can
can.
you can like describe the content style if you don't want to. Like,
Well, it just gets
anyone
repetitive
directly.
to a way. They have a lot of writers. They have a lot of they have so much content that they just keep churning it out over and over again. And sometimes the stories overlap. Like they have stories that have the same concept twice because a different writer tackled it.
Yeah, I think the best explanation for content that's like that for me, unfortunately, is MHA, because there's so many what ifs where they just give Deku a different power, and so many
Yeah,
story beats will just overlap because nothing changes that heavily to
which
a
is
degree.
usually why my channel focuses more on combining worlds. If you do that, like you have Spider-Man in My Hero Academia, and one where he does have a superpower, which is the Omnitrix. Doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily repeat the same beats. It has its own storylines. It has a lot of interesting stuff from the Omnitrix universe. Like adding that dichotomy of the other franchise can make it more interesting, in my opinion. Although at that point, some people argue it's a fan fiction and not a what if.
yeah, I can understand the line being blurred a bit there. Do you think people judge what ifs too quickly and just say they're fan fiction, possibly?
Well, yeah. I mean, at the same time, no. We recently had the TV show What If, which kind of brought a lot of legitimacy to the community, I feel like. Because it's on TV! Well, Disney Plus! Made by an official brand, so what ifs are now canon, I guess, for lack of a better term.
That reminds me of people saying Dragon Ball Z Abridged is canon. I'm not even
So
joking. There's people who do say that.
okay, interesting. Um, yeah. So the fact that fan fiction is a legitimate way of enjoying a story and to allow other people to enjoy stories, and if a what if falls under the fan fiction the banner for some people, as long as they enjoy it, so be it. At the same time, you can't really judge a book by its cover. Like, just because it's a what if doesn't mean it's going to be bad.
Yeah, I can understand that. Do you think maybe oversaturation is what's causing the decline for what if content recently? Because so many people might see a channel not like and just be quick to judge everyone else in the same genre.
That may be, yes. I mean, personally, I started when there were few channels and their content was pretty good, in my opinion. Like, their heights reached higher over time. Like, for example, Plus Ultraman, his quality got better over time, as most channels do. But his content at the beginning was very good. At the same time, with so many new people, someone may find an amateur and just say the whole community's bad, I'm not watching this. No offense to that amateur, they can get better over time. Everyone has the different things that make them unique, as I said before. So, yeah, there's. Don't judge a whole community by one. Don't judge a tree by the taste of the one apple.
Yeah, I can agree with that fully, but I do think that is something that people in our community aren't considering recently, because it's not just like your channel, mine, or just a couple people. It's a lot of channels just recently going down, and I think that could be partly why, potentially. Because when it was smaller, people could watch one person after another because the content quality is relatively same. But now, since it's not, it's hard to get in recommended, possibly.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Because I know with me, like, I took a relatively long break for my recent What If, and while it's not perfect, honestly, there's people who are criticizing it a bit. I would say it's way better than a lot of my other stuff that's currently there. I feel like eventually I do want to have more time to improve, but obviously YouTube's just harsh, you know? You gotta keep posting content to maintain relevancy. It's just crazy to think
Yeah,
about sometimes.
that's kind of sad, honestly, because YouTubers need the mental health breaks. And when you do that, or when you do take a step back for other reasons like university or whatever, a lot of you will still stay there. And when you come back, you have to work that much harder to become relevant again, which I feel like has hurt channels like mine, and to an extent, I feel like yours too, because I've seen the numbers before the break and after the break, and it's, yeah, that can hurt.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's why, like, when editing for like Anime Sage or a few other people I do, like, they kind of recognize this a bit. At least some of them do. So they're trying to maintain like a pace. But the thing is, like, I feel like more crashes are more likely than new
As the
people who
quality
can
of the
sustain it. Yeah.
Yeah, as the quality of the channels also goes up, the big channels increase their quality at a quicker pace. That also means their ability to churn out massive amounts of content, which may have kept them relevant before, is also slowed down. Because now it's less content with more quality, but that also means that the YouTube algorithm won't respond favorably. Or at least that's how I feel.
What's something you want your fans to take back from like watching your what ifs?
On general enjoyment, to take back from it, like something to, yeah, I hope that they enjoyed. I hope that they can see the philosophy and thought put behind it, because there's a lot of thought that goes into each and every part, into how the changes affect the continuity. I plan things ahead a lot, maybe a bit too much, and sometimes I can't keep up with that.
So, what do you think made what ifs become their own community like they are kind of now versus like when they're more like general like AniTube related things? Because that's what it used to be from my perspective.
Well, here you're talking about specific what if anime what ifs, because
No, I'm not
there's
talking
also
about specific what ifs. I'm talking about how did what ifs become a genre? Because it used to not be that
well,
way.
wasn't there also Star Wars what ifs and Marvel what ifs beforehand that weren't necessarily connected to AniTube?
So Marvel what ifs, Marvel Comics actually produced their own run of
Yeah,
it.
since
So
the
people
70s.
so people did come up with stuff related to that. And Star Wars, I believe they also did something similar because I think Marvel wrote for their comics as well.
Yeah,
So
and
I think
DC
that
had the
explains it.
Elseworld saga. So what ifs in a way always existed. It's just on YouTube they kind of started related to anime and then expanded from that.
Well,
So
I probably
especially,
wouldn't say that. I would say like anime what ifs are kind of their own like subgenre, I would say,
yeah,
because you don't see people try to combine multiple stuff together besides like
very
maybe a
much
few
so.
people.
That's
But that's
true.
more of an algorithm thing if people are curious about that. That's why you don't see me try to jump into like Avatar Last Airbender other stuff. Even if I could, because they're similar enough, but the thing is like there's risk involved, especially.
Yeah. I have honestly considered it because I love Avatar.
I think you
But
should. I think you should go for it.
maybe in the future. I have this idea of how I want things to progress, and it's gonna take me some time to adapt to that idea. Because honestly, I've had the issue where I keep thinking of how the future should look like for my channel, and if I can keep up with all the what ifs I started, which I know I can't, but try to finishing them one at a time, which has also proved difficult with other projects and other life things going on. And recently I've tried to write for one and have found myself not being to acclimate back to the style I wrote the what ifs in. So I've I've thought of maybe ending it explaining my notes and how I would have made the show and then start fresh, because I had this philosophy from a very long time ago that I should finish what I started and then start with new stuff, so I don't leave things half finished. So, yeah.
I understand that. So, some new trend I'm seeing is that there's people basically reading fan fictions and passing it off as what if scenarios. What do you think about those types of channels that have been
If
like
you're
plaguing the scene?
if you're taking someone else's work and passing it as your own, that's a no-no. If you're taking inspiration from another work and making a what if based on what you got from it, then yeah, as long as you do it differently, as long as you add your own spin to it, then that's all right. But again, just passing someone else's work as a different thing on a different platform, that's not good. Don't steal.
I think with me, my bare minimum is like just give credit to the person. Like,
Yeah.
at least by then you're kind
Usually
of
you should ask for
contributing to it.
permission first, though.
The hard thing with fanfiction writers is there's a lot of them that just disappeared. Like, there's no way to contact some of these people. Like, this is like early internet age.
At that point, maybe like send them a message, try to get an answer. If you don't get it in a while, then do the thing with the credit. Like, there's certain ways. Again, this is an ethical thing. Go off of your own ethics code or whatever. Like,
yeah.
There's
I'm just saying my thing. Like, you should at least do the bare minimum. Just credit the person.
Yeah.
Like, you can at least do that.
Yeah, that literally is you can mention it in the video or just one line in the description. It's not that much work.
You could even link back to whatever fanfiction you're reading as well, or the art that you use, because the art thing is people have been stealing art recently for thumbnails, and that's just horrible as well.
I feel like that has always been the case, stealing art from, like, I remember seeing art from the internet used for early thumbnails, also using art from the official art from the show, which is that's kind of always been a thing in at least one way.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about some social media stuff to get something a little different. So, should content creators allow their fans to dictate what they make?
Honestly, I said that before, no, because at that point it stops being entirely yours if someone else has the control over it. So it's kind of better if you choose what you want to make. You can take criticism, you can take help and directions if you need it, but at the end of the day, it should be yours. So don't let other people dictate what you want to do, because at the same time, you might lose enjoyment from that.
That's fair. Something else I wanted to ask, as someone who's created what ifs for a while, do you have any advice you just want to give to, like, me in particular, if you want to?
I don't know what to. I feel like you've been around pretty long too, so I don't exactly know what advice to give you.
No, that's fair if you want to say that. I have been around for a while.
I mean, if I want to say that's how I feel, I don't really know what to tell you.
I mean, you could tell me how you feel about my content if you want. If you want to be honest about that, it's fine.
But to be honest, haven't watched it in a while. I've looked at what you've posted, but I haven't watched the video specifically, so can't tell you much there either.
That's fair enough. I would recommend my latest video, What If Bardock Betrayed the Saiyans? That's a very interesting choice for what if-ery I've done. And people are asking me if I was serious or not with this. The thing is, like, I was half serious, because how I do my content, half of it is satire, but half is, like, genuinely how a story would go, you know? And with that concept being absurd as it is, it gives me a bit more leeway for what happens, honestly, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, when people ask, like, how seriously do you have to take your story, I would say the more free reign you do with it, the more, I would say, original it becomes, but at the same time, you do want to keep some structure, or else it's gonna just fall apart into, like, a mess. Is my personal opinion.
No, that's true. At the very least, you need to know what you're doing and where you're going. Otherwise, it's gonna feel like you're just making things up, which you are, but it needs to feel like it's coherent at the very least.
Yeah, that's a better way to phrase it. My phrasing wasn't exactly as clear as that. Oh, so you don't know much about the what if community, really. So what made you feel more distance besides like over expanding? Were you not interested in collaborating with other people,
Well, I
or
was interested in collaborating with other people, but I never know how to reach out to them. The collabs I did early on kind of left not the best taste in my mouth because, well, one of the first collabs I did was What If Deku was the Avatar. Did that early on with Kid Zeus and was kind of left hanging halfway through. And then he deleted the series and decided he would do a reboot on his own. And I was left with part 1 and 3 and 5 there alone without a continuation or anything.
yeah,
And
that's kind of scummy. He did that, at least didn't consider giving you the other parts to at least have for continuity.
yeah, so I kind of had to unlist those videos, which I didn't like doing. And the next time I did something, the guy kind of started ghosting me. So I guess, I mean, I've always been up for collabs. The one collab I really liked doing was with WTC, the Anime Outcasts. With General Red, we did this crossover series where both of our What If Midori had the Omnitrix kind of crossed over. And I thought
Oh,
that
that's
was really
cool.
cool.
I
Because it
like
was
that
like
concept.
it was a mini series that kind of combined them, and it had effects on both of our continuities. So honestly, that was a very fun one. And if I can get other What If YouTubers to do that sort of stuff with me, that I would love that.
Do you have a favorite like non-what if video you've made, or not really?
Honestly, again, this was very early on, and the video probably sucks compared to to the quality I do now. But early on, I did an analysis of the season 4 intro Polaris, and I really enjoyed doing that. Like, I really dissected I tried my best to dissect the intro. Otherwise, the second anniversary episode was pretty interesting, I think. I'm not sure how many people saw it, but it was fun. Was the first part was explaining how I do videos. The second part was just a Q&A, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I could understand that. I tried to do some non-what if content, but the thing is, like, with my channel name and how I kind of want to take the direction of my channel, it makes more sense for me to just maintain my second channel. So every so often I'll move videos from a main channel if I feel like it to that one, because that's just how I just do
Oh, I
things
can
these days.
totally get that. That's also better for the CEO, if I'm not mistaken, because I
SEO,
know.
search engine optimization.
Yeah, I just know that whenever I post a video that's not What If, it does considerably worse.
Yeah, I would recommend you like considering making a second channel at this point, because you're over 1K. It would be worthwhile to do
Mm,
that. At least
yeah.
that's my personal opinion for people who ever want to know when they should make a second channel. If you're past 1K on your main channel, it's worthwhile just start a second one to just have it. Like,
I
just
might
post
take you up
whatever.
on that. I might take you up on that idea.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any other what if content creators you still watch? I know you quit watching some.
Well, I on occasion still watch again WTC the Enemy Outcasts. Close. Well, he's a friend. Like one of the main guys there is a friend, so we like that. And aside from that, I think I kind of quit the community. I stopped making videos for a long time. So yeah.
To be fair, you took a break for a month. Like, I could understand if you ever consider quitting even after this thing. I just thought it'd be at least
Well,
worthwhile asking.
I have considered it a lot, but at the same time, I don't want to leave things unfinished, and I have a lot of other projects I want to do. So, yeah, probably not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, at least you didn't turn to a political channel. I know it happened to one person that I used to follow, and I'm a bit disappointed in them.
Like for my channel, my content may slow. It may become very rare, but stuff's still going to come out eventually.
Well, if you ever feel like it might be worth, well, just starting fresh, and keep that channel like for archival purposes, even.
Yeah, that's also an option.
Because I know there's people who literally straight up delete like everything. They
Oh
just
no,
keep it.
I personally hate that. I don't want to delete anything because it's, again, archive. It's a history. It was proof that I was here, and proof that I did something. And it may not have impacted too many people, but at least it impacted one person, I like to believe. So
Yeah, I know with I can name a few examples because I talked about it with Red Cloak and Masked Man, and I think their reasonings were fairly justified. With Masked Man, he basically wanted to shift up content entirely and kind of didn't want to jar people, so I get why he did it. Kind of wish he at least archived it, but that's his personal choice. And if Red Cloak, he basically kept his more popular ones, kind of like showcase what he used to do, but he has gotten rid of a good percentage of his what ifs, which is whatever, it happens.
I know Kid Zeus, for example, was either unlisting them or deleting them and then launching reboots of those series. I don't know
Part of
exactly
that,
how.
I think, is inspiration from me because a while back I talked with him and mentioned about, like, he talked to me a bit about, is it worthwhile redoing his like older content even if it has a ton of views? And I said, like, I think it's worthwhile if you've gotten better at editing, like narrating or writing, or some aspect you think is worth redoing, then you should go for it. But I think the problem that I should have brought up to him is, like, if you did a collab with someone, you might want to at least talk with them first or something, because that's something I
Yeah.
didn't talk with them about. Because it can be awkward if you just delete your portion of a collab and the other
Yeah.
person
Yes,
doesn't have some.
Yes, it can.
That's just common sense. I'm not even trying to rag on that hard, to be honest. Like, I would be probably as mad if that happened to me. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm jumping through a couple of questions
No,
since
it
we've
doesn't matter.
done some of them. How important is the video editing when it comes down to making a YouTube video?
Honestly, I've had a lot of discussions and thought a lot about this. In the beginning, I didn't really do video editing. I just had a couple images cycling through the video. At this point, I put a lot of effort into it, with the images moving around and using keyframes and stuff. But at the same time, I always consider, what if I don't do that? Because that obviously eats up a lot of time, which you could use elsewhere in the process. I consider it important, but at the same time, I don't know if I should keep it around. I've had so many deliberations with myself about that, because it's a decrease in quality, but at the same time, time versus quality.
Yeah, I think with what ifs, there's a lot of pressure because there's people who do like a thumbnail and that's the video, or just throwing gameplay and they get equivalent or more views for putting in less effort towards it. So it's
because most people just listen to it in the background, and that's understandable.
Right, but I think that it gets a bit more complicated because if you have regular, or newer people watching, they're just not as impressed. Like,
Yeah.
it creates a divide, I feel like.
Yeah, true. I've honestly deliberated a lot about this, and I still don't know what direction to go with. For
I
now,
know,
unless I
I can
decide
say,
otherwise, I'm keeping the editing.
I can say when it comes with editing other people, I've been less, like, fearful to use, like, gameplay, like, for fight scenes or something that makes sense to use gameplay for.
I never
But
thought
I don't
about
think
that.
I'd push myself to use it for, like, an entirety of something.
Understandable.
Like, for example, with my recent What If, I had the scene from Dragon Ball Z Kakarot with Raditz showing up on Earth. Like, I kept that, because that made sense to throw in there. Like, there are scenes, like, from cutscenes you could use as long as it looks good. And even with
and fits the narrative.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Or I'm fine with people just using it, like, as a B-roll for, like, a transition to a different scene. Like, I'm okay with that even. if they have to.
Understandable.
Is there anything in the future you want to do to like improve the quality of your content?
Honestly, a lot. I've been wanting to improve my voice skills. The writing is. I feel like the writing is my best quality. Again, want to become a writer, so that's that. I also want to figure out editing. I've been trying to draw more, although I feel like I'm pretty bad at that. So I've also had some friends do commissions for me, and it's kind of this exchange. If I can get good enough at it, I would love to do animations. That's gonna eat so much more time. But for a very important scene I have in mind, I would love to have that.
I know there's one content creator I talked with, that one weeb. He's interested in also doing animation in the future, and he's working on the logistics with that. So I'm curious if that goes through, because the only other thing I've seen is there's this content creator that goes by Double Artemis. He does more like parody stuff, but he has done like a what if fight, or is wanting to like animate one.
If I remember correctly, there was this small what if YouTuber who did it animated. His what ifs were very short and consisted mostly of the animation, but he animated it more or less.
I think I do know there's one guy who used to go, the guy who voices the Joker for my outro. He used to do green screen what if fights, and those were really cool. So they weren't exactly animation, but they were like close, you know.
Not exactly sure how to envision it, but yeah.
So he would chroma key like Goku fighting like someone he didn't fight, you know, and he would overlay the two chroma keys together and put like a background.
Very interesting thought. Yeah. At most, I've just had keyframes move around the screen. There's one where I'm very proud of where you have just Ojiro show up, the sprite changes, spins around, and hits something away. I was very proud of that one.
I see.
Keyframing.
Yeah, one thing I'm trying to work on is trying to include more voice acting for some of my what ifs, but the problem is there's a lot of people who are like picky with how they want their voices, like they want them to sound like what they remember or whatever, you know. It's like sometimes it's not, there's some people who can't do the vocal range or they can't do it exact, so I'm thinking about having kind of like more original voices for some characters. That makes sense.
Aren't voice actors expensive though?
Are they expensive?
I don't know. I always imagine them to be, which is why I haven't really gotten any yet.
Well, to be fair, the gap in our sub count's a lot like higher, I would say. And partly well, I'm commissioning them, like obviously I'm paying them to a degree.
But do you I shouldn't ask that question. Yeah, I can ask later. That doesn't really matter. It's just I've had many ideas.
If you mean in like are voice actors expensive in general, it just depends. Like, A, what you're looking for. B, do you want them to do retakes? And the third thing is like, you can't get one person to do like everything. That's where stuff, in my opinion, gets expensive.
Yeah,
because
I mean, I've done that for female voices, but that was when the voice actress was related to me.
Okay, I think Damon, I don't know if he's still with his girlfriend, but I think she voiced a few things for his stuff. I'm pretty sure it's public knowledge on his Instagram. Yeah, it is. I just want to check. But yeah, he's done that before.
Interesting.
I mean, it's not a thing. Like, if you're hanging out and doing videos. Like, I know a couple people who are in a similar situation. I only brought him up specifically because I know it's public. I don't want to, like, out other people, you know?
Yeah.
And the other thing is that I believe she was supposed to voice for our collab we did, but I think he had to get something else to have the video out on time, which was fine. See,
Okay.
I gotta close off a few questions here. So, do you have advice for people who want to quit making what if content or just quit YouTube like outright?
Make sure that's what you really want to do, because it's gonna be hard to come back.
Oh yeah, I would say it's at least worthwhile to keep like your channel up there. Like, even if you don't want your videos up there publicly, you can just set them to private, or if you really feel obligated, you can delete them if you feel that bad. But unlisting them be fine.
That's a good point.
But the last thing I kind of want to end off here is that, let's see, I'm skipping over a few questions. So, is there any projects you're planning to come back to when you're done with your break you're currently on?
Well, what if Midoriya was the Omnitrix is honestly my priority on that, and after that I want to go to the Spider-Man what if. The Omnitrix one I just have fully planned out already, so I just have to write it, and have been trying to while on break, but haven't really mustered that strength. I know exactly how it's gonna end. I know exactly how it's gonna go. I just need to get to it. And I have a couple other ones, but I'd rather keep those private. Secrets.
No, that's fine. People don't have to keep public what they don't have to. Like, it's fine. And yeah, is there anything you want to tell my audience before we end off here?
Well, subscribe to What If Universe if you aren't already, and check out NoahStorys.
All right, thank you. So we're gonna end things off here. I hope y'all enjoyed. We have some other stuff we'll probably talk to off camera and whatnot. But always remember, in a What If universe, there are endless possibilities, and I'll see ya in the next thing. Interview, whatever thing that's gonna come up next. Bye.